Welcome, Marko, to Metallarium Page. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about The Crown, this new album, Crown of Thorns, and obviously more things related to the metal world. So we start by asking, how are you today? How is the band? And obviously, how is the band during the last couple of years? Because your previous album was released 3 years ago.
Yeah. Well, first of all, today I'm doing good. It's finally the interview season, so to say. There's always this couple of months of complete silence after you deliver the masters to the label and you don't get any feedback. So it's great to talk to people and talk about the music and get the feedback and all of that stuff. So I really enjoy it. And we're doing good. A couple of years we've been doing what we have been able to do. I mean, after the pandemic, we did some touring and some shows and do some one-off shows, but the main focus has been on the new material. And there was some challenges along the way when members leaving, we changed around, but yeah, full focus on the album. That's been the highest priority.
Okay, interesting to know. When do you start writing songs for this new album? And all the songs are new, or did you rescue any compositions that were left out of the previous albums, or perhaps from Royal Destroyer?
We never leave out sort of complete songs, but I can say that has happened always. Is that I write quite a lot of music. It's not always complete songs, it's bits and pieces and whatever, melodies, riffs and all of that. And there's always older stuff that ends up on our albums. I mean, we can, for example, the song Night is Now from the new album. There's this opening riff that sounds a bit like cowboy styled melody thing. And I think I wrote that thing 15 years ago. It just never found its home, what to do with it. So there's always been a lot of that stuff. So bits and pieces that finally sort of make sense after months or years or even decades, that can easily happen. But all the sort of foundation to songs, we basically start from scratch after every album.
Okay. So you guys seem to have a steady pace of releasing albums, with your last one coming out in 2021. What motivates you or inspired you to keep such a consistent release schedule, especially when in an era where people tend to listen to album less, and there are so many other releases competing for attention?
Yeah, I think it's as I said, I write a lot of music, and like for this album, I think I wrote 19 foundations to songs. So that's not usually the problem, to come up with songs and stuff like that. Usually the challenge for us is to actually get together in rehearsal places and work on the songs and stuff like that. But but that has worked pretty smoothly lately. So it's all about, if we manage to get the time to get together, then we are pretty creative. And it's usually when we get up over to, so like if we have 10 solid songs, then we know that, okay, we are getting really close to an album thing release. And we book the studio and we need to wait for any special guy to record it, because I recorded the album myself in the studio, but then we hired a guy to do the mixing. But so it was a smooth process, even though if you think about it, that there's like 2 member changes and addition of Marcus in the band and stuff like that happened. But creatively, I mean, music-wise, song-wise, that's the least of our problems, so to say.
Okay. So how do you feel about this new release comparing your previous one, which came out during a difficult time to the pandemic? Because 2021, the pandemic is still going on at that moment. But now we are completely free of this pandemic, and now you are releasing this new one.
Yeah, it turned out different sounding, and there's like 2 things to it. There's a natural reason why it's different, and there's an intentional reason why it's different. And I guess the natural part is more some changes in the lineup, and also the big fact that Magnus left the band, and we usually always wrote about 50-50 of the songs on previous Crown albums, and he had a more sort of rockish punk thing going on, and I was more of the melody guy. So now when I composed most of the songs, it naturally became more melodic because I'm a big sucker for melodies. But then there's also the intentional approach, because we really wanted it to sort of break free from the Royal Destroyer and Cobra Speed Venom albums, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with them, but we just felt that they were a bit too similar. So and I get a bit restless when I experience that I'm in a comfort zone. I really don't like to be. I like to push myself. So we went for the opposite. We did some intentional decisions like tune up the guitars to get another sound and stuff like that. And obviously new members input and all of that. And we changed the studio, we changed the cover artist, we changed a lot of things to keep it fresh.
Okay. So many bands and musicians see each album as a child, each one special in its own way. So what makes this album special to you, and what does it bring us musically and lyrically?
I think we are progressing in a way, in a sense we've always done that. There's a certain percentage of new, but there's also this style in us that we like it or not, but we can't get away from. I mean, I have a certain style of writing music. Obviously, Johan vocals set a huge impact on the overall sound and all of that. So I think it fits in there because it still shows a drive of development. I think it's not a repetition of any album. There's the sound obviously there, our way of doing things, but there are some couple of songs that really differs from what we've done before, and that's why I'm also proud of this child.
Okay. One thing that captured my attention about this new album is that you are using the name of the album as the first band of the name, because the first band of the name was Crown of Thorns, and this new album it is the same. So why do you decide to put in this new album the first name of the band?
I think it grew on us a bit because actually the first thing that we did, and it was also intentionally, we actually started to come up with a cool artwork. So the artwork was completed maybe 2 years ago. And what we wanted to have in the artwork is actually a bridge from our hometown, Trollhättan in Sweden. So that's what you see on the cover artwork. It's a bridge, symbolizes us, our upbringing and everything. So with that in mind, it sort of looped back into the name Crown of Thorns, because that's, as you said, that's our original band name. And because I know that we have talked for years and years that why don't we have a song called Crown of Thorns, but it just never happened. But this time when we sort of looped in the hometown Trollhättan bridge and all those kind of vibes and a bit more melodies and stuff, it felt cool to use the name Crown of Thorns, and also be able to say that we actually have a self-titled album, but in a way it isn't, but then again it is. So I felt the right time to do it.
Okay. With Royal Destroyer and now with Crown of Thorns albums, I saw that the band decides to going back especially with the cover arts, because from Royal Destroyer the cover is like the 90s, and now the Crown is like the 90s or 80s or 90s with a black and white cover art. So that's a curious thing, because now are people, as you can see, that are trying to release a cover art with a very complicated themes or aspects into the cover art. Now with artificial intelligence, the people try to put more details into the cover art. So for this, what are you with these last two albums returning in past with a classic cover art without a lot of details? So what is the motives that you returning in time?
I think that when we did both Cobra Speed Venom and Royal Destroyer, the style is similar. It's the same guy that did it, Mr. Sloan Hall. So the coloring, the details, and all of that. And I guess it's in our nature that when we find ourselves being in that comfort zone, we sort of reverse and we want to do something completely else. And I mean, we haven't done a 2-color artwork since in over 20 years. I mean, you have to go back like Death Race King when we only had black and gray, But other than that, there's been a lot of colors and stuff. So we really felt that we need to step away from the detailed coloring thing, and once again try to do something new, fresh, that sticks out and becomes almost like a new chapter. And the black and white thing, I just thought it was beautiful, because it's both in a sense old school thing, but it's not this, you know, dirty Xerox, you know, made to look like old school. For me, it's a bit classy, and I like it. It's really cool, and I think it definitely gets an impact, you know, when you put that next to the 30 albums of the month or whatever. It sticks out, and I like that, especially the vinyl version, and what we did on the gatefold, and it makes sense. It's pretty cool. It's simple and classic.
Okay, okay. I saw that these new albums are releasing singles by singles. That's a common thing now. But
Yeah.
according to this, how was the reception to the singles has been so far for this new album, and the expectation of the people is to hear the full album? Also, do you into this topic,
Yeah.
when the album will come out in the future, when did you read? Will you read the reviews about the new album, all reviews, the post online, or perhaps you don't know, you don't read the reviews, just need to, the people insist to hear the band, the music, and not read reviews?
To be honest, I'm super curious. I read everything. It's then the other question is, do I care? Well, I do care in that much. I really want to hear it, but I don't care on that level that their opinion will ever affect me to, you know, do something different in music. So in that area, I'm very selfish, but I do love reading about feedback. And now is a beautiful time, because just today and yesterday we received from the label a lot of reviews, and it's looking really, really cool. And the feedback from the first video, Church Burning, that was great as well. I mean, there was the sort of impact I wanted to get. The people hearing that, oh, it doesn't sound like they're regurgitating themselves. There's something new. There's something else there. And actually today, only like 3 hours ago, we released our second single, second video, and that is a very different song, Gone to Hell. So that I also like to surprise people a bit, you know, when they think they know what they're gonna get, we go the opposite direction, and we present them a sort of tempo song that has some sort of post-punk vibes to it, and, you know, melodies and stuff like that. So that's really interesting. So I'm looking forward to, in a couple of days, reading through some posts and see how people freak out, because I'm pretty sure many were expecting once again a very, you know, fast and aggressive song, but and I think that it's cool to show also that we have other sides in us, because I don't think we have anything to prove. That, I mean, people shouldn't doubt that we can play fast. That's not the thing, but it's cool to show that we can actually play, you know, a bit slower, and do a bit more, another different approach to a song. That is what I find really interesting.
Okay, okay. So one topic that I saw compared to the Royal Destroyer is that Royal Destroyer is more aggressive album. I know, because I hear that at that moment, and now I hear completely this Crown of Thorns, and I denote something more melodics, more pacific, more nostalgic in some ways. So for this topic, one question that is very related with the pandemic is that when you released Royal Destroyer, you composed that album when the pandemic wasn't there at that moment. But you composed this Crown of Thorns during the pandemics. So this is a cool thing. And usually when a musician feels the outside, the normal, before the Royal Destroyer, the life was normal at that time, because normal. But now you compose this album during the difficult times, and perhaps was the reason that this new album has more melodic, more melancholic, more nostalgic themes into the music. Do you think that the musician has a perceptive the essence of the outside environments to create music?
I think it does, either if you're aware of it or not, but I think it's pretty obvious that it does. I mean, everything in your life reflects on your sort of outlet, being whatever, creating something, music, things, whatever. Of course, it affects. But then the question is it obvious, or how does it affect? But the thing is that with the whole pandemic thing, and I mean, there were some situations the world was pretty fucked up and pretty shocked about, you know, the lockdowns and all of that. But the thing, at least with me, I find it pretty difficult to relate to when I hear people say that I write music when I feel sad or bad or terrible or whatever, because I mean, the last thing I want to do is pick up a guitar if I feel shit. For me, I pick up the guitar when I'm in a good mood and I feel inspired or something. Yeah, I'm excited to, you know, whatever, write a new song, actually on a positive side, you know. So I don't think in that sense, I mean, the whole melodies and melancholic thing, I think it's always been there, but now it's so present because I'm basically the only songwriter. Matthias did one song, but since that was usually my thing to write in the past, I mean, we've done those things, you know, basically since album number 1 or album number 2. So that is still, it's just a huge part of me, how I like to write music. I like melodies and I like sad melodies and stuff like that. So in that sense, yeah.
Okay. Other topic about usually when you compose music, that is normally that you have numbers in front of each song. That's normal because you create the song with 3 riffs, two riffs, schemes, rhymes, solo. The solo will enter in the part, etc., etc. And obviously, the letters is the same. So for you, which is most the important thing to create a song or an album? Is the mathematical aspect or is the feeling aspect when you feel did that riff going to four times to create the song, or perhaps this riff going to be 3 times in the song? So for you, how is this perspective to fusion the mathematical and the feeling aspect at the moment that you create a song?
Yeah, that is an interesting question. It depends on the mindset of how was I thinking 30 years ago or how I think today. Today, or the past 10 years or something like that, I really trust my gut feeling. And I usually start a song with, I don't know first if it's the verse or the chorus or whatever it is, but if it sticks with me and I really feel that, wow, this is catchy, and I can't sort of forget that part, then I take it to next level and, you know, work with it. And if it's the chorus and I feel, oh, this is something cool, then I build a song around it. You know, what do we need to get to the chorus? How do we start it? How do we incorporate maybe a melody from the chorus into the intro or outro or something like that? It usually starts with something I feel is sort of hooky or something memorable. But as I said, the first stage, I don't know if it's the intro or verse or the chorus that I just wrote, but then I let it, you know, some people can write a song in 30 minutes and I've done that as well, but usually nowadays, like past 10 years, it takes months because it's all about feeling that, because I can, like I told you earlier, that I wrote something 15 years ago, but it didn't make sense. But then all of a sudden it clicks and, oh, that's how I should do with that part. And, you know, and then it becomes including in a song, for example. So it's a lot about feeling it. I need to feel it in my stomach that this is good, this is solid stuff. Never mathematics. I hate it, not my thing at all. It's pure feeling, I would say.
Okay. If someone just discovered you, sees that the origins of the band going back to 1990, the first years of the 90s. So, and they will obviously will think that you play like the most classic death thrash metal, or perhaps thrash metal, because in the 90s the death metal has a different approach from the 90s. So, but it's not your case. The band sounds is modern in some ways and includes sounds for a different styles, melodic, thrash metal. You have a lot also groove ideas you include in this album. So with different styles. So what is the reason for your musical evolutions, and how do you define your sound when they ask you?
I get that asked quite often, you know, how would you define it? I mean, to be honest, I can't really give a short answer to it, but the explanation to why we sound like we do, I think where we differ from other bands is that ever since we started in 1990, this is the only band we've ever had. We never had any other outlets to music. This is the only band we've ever played in. And what I'm trying to say is that it was very, very common in the 90s when there was a band that maybe wrote a song that sounded a bit different, they started a side project or another band or something like that. I remember in the heydays, like, you know, Dan Svaner from Sweden, he had like 32 bands or something like that. But for us, we never looked outside to, oh, this is so different. I mean, even on a very, very debut album, there are some different songs like Candles and Of Good and Evil, the opening track. We never thought, oh, this we can't release in Crown. We need to start a new project or side project. So we have all these years, 30 years, it's always been like that. Like a previous album, we have this song, We Drift On. It was a very ballady thing. And in a sort of normal state of mind, maybe someone would have started a side project for it, but that's not the case for us. We want to include everything in the Crown. And that's why I think the sound is quite wide. There are a lot of flavors and feels within every album. And if you follow our whole sort of albums through, there's a lot of weird things happening, everything from punk, thrash to whatever. And we never said no to those type of influences. We always said, just say, bring it on. This is now when it becomes interesting, you know? Mm-hmm. So when you come up with something weird, you may be inspired from a completely different genre or whatever. But, oh, I would like to try this ooga booga drums or something. And you figure it out and it becomes something unique. That's what I'm more interested about.
Okay. Now talking about again from this new album, and what kind of plans do you have to promote this new album? Perhaps embark tours, release more videos, or perhaps you're already working on a new album from The Crown. Who knows? What kind of plans do you have for the band, for this new album, or for the future in general?
Yeah. Right now, we are sort of promoting it this way and releasing the videos and you know, interacting with people. And as I said, today we released our second video and single, and now we're basically waiting for October 11th till the album is out and see where it takes us, because we're a bit late at the moment with planning the sort of tour plans for this album, but we're in the middle of it, and we are going to figure out how to support it in 2025. We have a couple of shows now in the end of the year in Sweden, but for next year, we are definitely going to promote it, you know, on a European tour, or there's even discussions to do a US tour, and we are discussing to go into countries we've never been to. So that's interesting. So it is going to happen. Most likely, you will sort of kick off early spring or something like that.
Okay. Now you have been working with Metal Blade for a long time. So how do you describe your relationship with the label, and how important is it for the band, considering that nowadays there is a young bands that choose to self-produce and work independently, especially with the singles now?
Yeah. Nowadays there are so many ways of doing it, and what it comes down to is mostly like, how much time are you prepared to commit? I mean, obviously, I run a studio. I could record the album and we could release it digitally or whatever, or print it, and you know, we could do all that by ourselves. But that means that someone needs to actually go to the post office and drop off some CDs in the mail, and you know, do the work that you sort of pay the label to do, and obviously the promotion part and all of that. So yes, we have worked a long time with Metal Blade, and this is actually the last album according to the contract now. So right now, I don't know what's going to happen. Is this the last album even for the Crown, or are we going forward? I at this point, it's an open canvas. I really don't know. So and if we go forward, how do we go forward? So it's interesting times, but definitely many bands, they don't need a label. It's absolutely perfect for bands that maybe are starting out. They can easily reach out, you know, through the platforms and all of that. So it's good. But for us, if we would now do all of this by ourselves, we would need to do it 8 hours per day, you know, just to make the logistics work with everything. And we simply don't have the time. So we need a professional record company to do that work for us. And that's what we pay them for. So that's basically the business model.
Okay. So we are very close to finishing this interview, Marko, and talking about a topic that changes the perspective of understanding of metal worldwide. It is the social networks or the social media. As you know,
Yeah.
today, thanks to this media, metal became more understandable and comprehensible, and even lost the sense of impact, fear of mystery that it had during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. When you talk about Brujeria from US, and you think that they were narco satanic people, that's one thing.
Mm.
So the mysteries that's involved each band at that moment, it was great. So
Yeah.
also when you saw the cover arts from the King Diamond, read the
Yeah.
booklets from him, and you think that he lived in a castle with demons,
Yeah.
vampire, these kind of topics, and also lyrics from Bruce Dickinson or the singer of Twister Sister, just to bother conservative people. That's the only thing
Yeah.
that they want, or
Yeah.
burning churches in the 90s, just to be a different kind of movement into the metal world. So now
Yeah.
there is no mystery of curiosity that metal gave you on a general level. What is so for this topic? What is your point of view about this move away from the fear, mystery, or curiosity that the metal had during that epoch, and now
Yeah.
everything is more comprehensible or more knowing for the social
Yeah.
media?
Yeah, I know what you're getting at, and it's I agree with you. It was very very different back in the days, and I think you and me are about the same age, so we are familiar with those bands that we never really understood. Like Battery or whatever. It was like, what the hell is this? Who are they? What are they doing? Where do they live? I have no idea. Now today you can basically follow what everybody is eating on a daily basis through some food pictures, and I mean the mystery is gone in that sense. So, but I don't know. It's up to every band. I think in some cases, not maybe every older band even thought about keeping it mysterious, but it became mysterious. But because there weren't so many, magazines writing about them, or there were no MTV playing them and all that other stuff. I mean, the mystery sort of opened up later on when sort of basically Metallica 1 exploded on MTV, and all of a sudden metal music became, you could actually see people, who the hell they were, and but today completely different scenario. And so if you want to be like this secret whatever band, it's quite impossible nowadays, because I can Google, if I know your name, I can Google pretty much a lot about you in 10 minutes. I know where you live, where relation status. I mean, it's quite easy. So that part is a bit scary in a way as well. But yeah, it is a completely new world in that sense. But let's see where it ends up. I mean, I think one thing that we need to be a bit careful with when adding this pure openness of everything in the internet social medias is adding this AI factor in, where you basically can't trust anything you see or anything you read. So I mean, you don't know if things are AI generated or not, and I mean it's quite weird nowadays. It's also in the early stages of AI. And I mean, if I see a clip of some famous guy or whatever doing some shitty thing, I mean, 10 years ago I would have believed my eyes, but I don't do it nowadays. It's just, you can't believe it, because you know that can't be real. There's a chance that there's a risk that it's not real. So it's really weird times. So try adding some mystery to that. I mean, it's quite impossible nowadays. So yeah, good luck, young bands. Try to be Brugeria or something like that.
Okay, okay. One last questions for this interview, Marco. As you can
Yeah,
see, a lot of well-known musicians talking about the future of the music industry. One thing
yeah,
is that the Nergal said that it's not point to be a musician now because there is a lot of competition. There is no way. There's no site for a new musician today because the music is too saturated for new bands, for new albums, etc., etc.
yeah,
Just bands like you with name on the scene will prevail on the future. The new bands don't have this chance. That's why Nergal said that there's more. It's much better to dedicate to another kind of things. Works normally, be engineer, be doctor. I know these kind of things.
mm,
Also, into this topic, Jack Gibson from Exodus said that this topic of the music industry is right now is dead because their music industry is now don't say well doesn't sell more doesn't sell more CDs, more physical copies, and just now the labels are trying to have more increases for the gigs, for the bands, etc. That's the way the physical media disappear completely. Will disappear in a couple. Even I read an article about Sony that is now handle Nuclear Blast and Century Media. They will disappear CD, DVDs in 5 to 7 years because there's no more demand for these topics. So what's your point of view about the Nergal said about there's no need to be more musicians in the world, one thing, and the other thing that the music industry is dead now?
Well, I think his quote is kind of wrong because if you say something like that, then you focus on that the music should generate money to you. And I think that if you have that as a goal with music to start with, then it's kind of weird, because I'm pretty sure if you ask every musician from my generation, their goal with their music when they started was not to generate money. They just played and they were happy to be able to play and reach out. That was the goal. But nowadays, as you said, the business model is quite fucked up. You don't sell physical stuff and whatever, but people and some artists should know if they are chasing the money, they are putting their names on a lot of products and stuff like that. I mean, we all seen everything from coffee brands to wine brands and whatever, and people are selling their name and their band into different products. And if that's how they want to do it, that's fine. Just go for it. But I mean, the world doesn't need more musicians. That's kind of silly to say, because that we need always music and musicians, but it's just the level of their expectation. I mean, if you start a band and you have the expectations to become the new Metallica, then I say you will be pretty disappointed, because I'm pretty sure there will be another Metallica again, but it will be on terms or circumstances that we never even thought of. I mean, only 10 years ago, if I would told you about crazy stuff like TikTok and whatever, you will say, what the hell is that? So there will always be some development happening that we can't proceed or sort of predict what will happen. But musically, the world needs always new music. But financial meeting music, that's always been a kind of weird equation.
Okay. Well, Marko, the sad moment arrived at this interview. I hope you enjoy this one like me, as I did, obviously. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time. This new album is a great one, usually as a good one from your career. A tremendous album. Congratulations on it. And maybe you have to add something to your Latin fans and Metallica followers.
As I said, we're quite late with the planning of live shows, but I also mentioned we are planning to hit territories we haven't been before. So guess where we haven't been? So yeah, there are some plans to come over there and finally do some live shows. So let's keep our fingers crossed, man.